Hey there guys, welcome to another time-lapse here on the channel. I'm going to be making a Bubbles time-lapse in this video. I did make Buttercup a while back with the Powerpuff Girls, now I'm going to work on Bubbles. I did have a choice between Blossom and Bubbles, but definitely went with Bubbles. So we're going to be working on that for this video. Going to have a white background, as you can see there. And there you can see the image that I'm going to be using. It does have a black border all the way around the image, so I'm going to be working on that first. And I really like doing characters or cartoon characters that have a lot of border lines like this because the images really fit together really well when you put them all together. So I don't expect this one to be any different. It's probably going to come out really cool. So I'm going to go all the way around the border here first, and then I'll start working on the actual colors. The past couple time lapses I've actually been making projects instead of actual paintings, and a couple people have asked me, are you going to get back to the paintings pretty soon? And of course there's going to be a return to form for that. I just decided to mix it up a little bit over the past few weeks and kind of show you guys something different in the time lapses. So it kind of gives me a way to preview a few of the things that you want to see on the channel eventually. So working on cutting out or just trimming up the side there, and now I'm going to rip the entire part off here. And this is actually a huge image. I'm a little bit off the board there towards the bottom, so I'll have to fix that when I stick the entire thing on. So just working on getting all that peeled off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the entire thing off because I could just leave it on my board and just apply all the images on top of that, but since it's going to be really difficult to peel the entire thing up and it's probably going to warp when I pull it up, I decided to pick it up here and stick it right on top of the pieces of paper here, and then I'm going to start working on it from there. So I'm going to use a little bit of electric blue here, and I'll be starting at the bottom and then working my way up from there. There's a lot of huge pieces in this one to work on, and there are a bunch of small pieces as well, and they'll have to fit together perfectly to form the entire image here. Alright, so going to work on the white pieces here on part of her legs. And when I made my Buttercup time lapse, I think I made a checkerboard on the back, but I decided to go with white for this one, so it's going to be a little bit basic in comparison, but it's going to look pretty cool. So I got her two eyes cut out right about there. I have the paper image stuck on top of my silhouette there, so I know exactly where to stick all these pieces. Just makes it a lot easier, and I can tell exactly where to stick them down as best I can. If they're a little bit off, they tend to stick to the paper when I try to pull it off, so you got to be careful with that. But as you can see, it looks pretty good, so it definitely worked out pretty well. So we're going to be using the beige here for her arms. Well, not really, I guess her arms are more like the little blobs. All the Powerpuff Girls have little blobs on the sides of their bodies, so they aren't really arms, no fingers. So I stick that on there, and then of course on the other side here, slowly working our way up towards the bigger pieces here for the rest of the head. Alright, so I'm going to be using a little bit more of HD clear packaging tape there. I'm going to work on this whole piece, which is the bulk part of her face. And this one's always a little bit tricky because it's the biggest piece, but it also has to go dead center in the middle of her face, and it kind of is the guideline for the rest of the things I have to stick on there. So I'm going to be using the paper once again here, as you can see. Going to line it up as best I can. There's still a little packaging tape on the sides, which kind of comes in handy for this part when I want to hold it down, but when you're trying to take it off, it kind of gets in the way. So that's about the right spot. I'm going to stick her eyes on right now. There's enough of a guideline there that I can kind of figure out where to stick these, just for now at least. I can always peel them up and stick them down somewhere else. So now I'm going to work on the major part of her hair here. The yellow matches pretty well for that. And then there's obviously that indent there at the top. So I'm going to peel this up, and I'm going to stick this down. And when you're working on an image like this, you always want to keep in mind the black border lines, so you want them to be roughly even all the way around. This one's a little bit too far down on her head, so I'm actually going to be fixing that eventually, but it really doesn't make too much difference at this point because I'm still working on it, and I can always arrange them once they're done here. So as you can see, those black border lines really start to take shape. You want them to be roughly even all the way around. That's always your goal when you're making something like this. So if you cut them out perfectly, then they're going to line up pretty much perfectly. So working on that now. Now I'm going to work on part of her blue eyes here. There's a little bit of a white sliver on there, and that's going to be right up against the side of it, so I had to work on that pretty soon. So here's the blue portion, and I'll work on one for the other side. And this one has just a little tiny gleam of white there on the side, as you can see. Alrighty. So I'm working on the white piece there, And then there's that tiny little piece. I can't remember if I already did it. I think I might have already done it. Yeah, there it is. So I have all these pieces stuck on there. And got the little thing on the side. And of course I can always just rearrange these in case they aren't, you know, lining up on all the sides. But they're looking pretty good. I think I did arrange one or two of them after this. So you'll see that in the finished image. So now I need to work on one more thing, which is her mouth, of course. That's the one thing that's missing. And then I'll be done with this time lapse. So hopefully you guys liked it. So working on a little bit of the pink there. Just freehanding the bottom. Just going to pick that up and stick it obviously right there in the center. Alright, so hopefully you guys liked the video, and there's the time lapse of Bubbles from the Powerpuff Girls. So catch you later on the channel, and that's the time lapse.